General Hospital spoilers indicate the daytime drama just published its preview video for the week of June 9th to 13th, and there are some interesting glimpses into the drama fans should expect over the following 5 days. A clip is shown during this week's chit-chat of Cody Bell and Kristina Corinthos Davis's at the Metro Court pool together as Kristina asks Cody, "How would you like to make some money?" As fans know, Lucky Spencer is leaving town this week, and Kristina will need a new bartender at Charlie's to fill Lucky's position. So will Cody take the job? Cody entering Kristina's orbit on this level might present an interesting dynamic. After all, Lucky's absence leaves a vacuum in Kristina's Ava Jerome and Rick Lansing car crash and blackmail narrative. With no co-conspirator to vent to, will Kristina be able to cope? Enter Cody as Lucky's replacement. Cody entering the situation will likely stir the pot in many ways, as he's also got a burgeoning affair with Kristina's sister Molly Lansing Davis. If Cody starts working closely with Kristina, would he overhear how she cut Rick's brakes, intending for them to be Ava's, which caused Rick's massive automobile accident with Elizabeth Liz Baldwin? Will he also hear about how the two are blacking Alexis Davis into laundering monies from the Cassadine estate? Then again, if Kristina and Cody get closer, on a friendship level, she may spill the beans, having to confide in someone about what's going on in her life. Cody and Molly are undoubtedly going for some sort of romance, and the two could secure this in the days or weeks ahead. After all, they pretended to be boyfriend and girlfriend at the 2025 Nurses Ball, and had a fantastic time doing so. Cody being in the know about not just what Kristina did, and Rick in turn blackmailing Molly's mom and sister, would leave Cody in a very difficult circumstance. This is kind of turbulence and conflict is what soapy tale fantasies are built of. Watching Cody struggle with what he knows, and perhaps helping Kristina keep things secret for Molly's sake will be a storyline that keeps fans at the edge of their seats, all while trying to romance Molly in the process. Cody working with Kristina won't be the ideal method for him to get his romantic relationship with Molly off the ground. General Hospital spoilers indicate that the storyline might become even deeper if Kristina and Cody find their friendship over this secret intensifying so much that they sense love sparks. Considering the problems Kristina and Molly have overcome, if her sister and Cody landed in bed with, or even exchanged a kiss, this could trigger the Davis sisters' hatred to reignite in a flash. Cody Bell had always known Port Charles was full of ghosts, not the sort that haunted ancient mansions or wandered through the hallways of General Hospital at night, but the kind that lived in memories, in connections never truly severed, in reputations earned and muttered about for decades. Now, as he stood just outside the Davis house, listening to the peaceful hum of life inside, Cody felt those ghosts pressing in on him, taunting him, daring him to take a step forward into something deeper than anything he'd expected. He hadn't come here to fall in love, and certainly not with someone attached so deeply to a family like the Davises. Yet somehow, without even wanting to, Molly Lansing Davis had lured him in. Their relationship had started lightly, shared looks during events, bumping into one another at Kelly's, and then long discussions that stretched into nights they didn't want to end. Cody wasn't used to women like Molly, bright, moral, fiercely loyal to her family, and burdened with a deep melancholy she didn't speak about but carried with her like armor. He also wasn't used to having to replace anyone, least of all someone like Lucky Spencer. The similarities were inescapable. Lucky was a legacy, a name everyone in town remembered for one reason or another. Cody had heard the stories, seen the glances when his name came up. Lucky was this. Lucky would have done that. And now, as Cody found himself in what seemed more and more like a serious relationship with Molly, those murmurs were getting louder. Not just from the town, but from within her own circle. Laura, for one, had been nice but cautious. She hadn't said anything directly, but Cody could read people, and her guarded tone told him plenty. Molly never compared them. She didn't bring up Lucky, not in the way others did, but there was an unsaid expectation, as though the town itself was waiting to see if Cody would measure up. And just as Cody was beginning to find his footing in this unexpected job, Port Charles dropped one of its infamous curveballs. Kristina, Molly's sister, had always been a fireball, unpredictable, temperamental, and passionate in ways that often led her into trouble. But Cody had detected something odd about Kristina recently. There was a tension under the surface, a recklessness she couldn't seem to shake. And then came the crash. No one saw it coming. One minute, Kristina was headed out after a passionate discussion with someone. Some said it was Sunny, others speculated it might have been Blaze. The next, her automobile was totaled on a twisty road just outside of town. The devastation appeared worse than it was, thankfully. She was beaten, battered, but alive. But the fallout was just beginning. And now Cody, through no fault of his own, was right in the thick of it. He had been with Molly when the call came. They were curled up on the couch, a rare night of tranquility in a world that rarely permitted it, when her phone chimed. Kristina's name popped up the screen, followed shortly by an alert from GH. Automobile wreck. Emergency contact. And just like that, the air changed. Molly was on her feet in seconds, grabbing her pocketbook, her voice shaking as she informed Cody she had to go. He was right behind her, insisting he'd come along. She didn't argue. In fact, she appeared relieved. The hospital was turmoil. Kristina was conscious but startled, her face battered, her arms covered in minor cuts and abrasions. Blaze arrived shortly after, eyes wild with dread. Alexis was already there, demanding answers from physicians, workers, anyone who could tell her how horrible it was. Sam showed up minutes later, stone-faced and protective. And Cody? Cody waited just outside the door, watching as the Davis women closed ranks. He felt like an outsider, a role he knew well. But then Molly turned, eyes latching on his, and in that moment, he wasn't on the outside at all. She stretched for his hand, and he stepped into the storm with her. Over the next 3 days, everything changed. Kristina's condition improved, but the mystery surrounding the tragedy intensified. She said it was just an accident. She swerved to escape an animal, lost control, end of story. But something didn't add up. Sam didn't buy it. Alexis didn't either. And neither did Blaze, whose concern grew progressively into mistrust. The tension in the Davis household was electric. Molly tried to play peacemaker, but it was evident she was being pulled in too many places. Her concern for Kristina was real, but her frustration was mounting. Kristina wouldn't talk about what transpired before the crash. She refused to open up, and every time the matter came up, she got defensive. That defensiveness started leaking into every discourse. One night, after another long and emotionally intense day, Cody sat across from Molly in her apartment. She looked fatigued. Not just physically, but emotionally spent in a level he hadn't seen before. "I don't know what to do," she murmured gently. "She won't tell me anything." And now Blaze is alleging Kristina might have been drinking. Or worse. Cody leaned forward, taking her hand. "You don't think she was? I don't know what to think anymore. I want to believe her. But there's something she's not telling. And I'm scared." Molly rarely let her defenses down. Seeing her this vulnerable just reinforced Cody's resolve. He hadn't planned to get involved. He didn't want to be the man prying into his girlfriend's family drama. But he also couldn't stand by and watch Molly break apart. That's when he started asking questions. First, it was subtle. He chatted to Blaze, questioned about the altercation they'd apparently had before the crash. Blaze was hesitant, evidently shielding Kristina, but she dropped enough information to ignite Cody's curiosity. Then he talked to Dante, who confirmed the crash was being looked into, informally at least. Something about the skid marks, the position of the car. It didn't feel accidental. Soon, Cody was retracing Kristina's steps, trying to piece together the truth. And when he went more, he learned something he hadn't expected. Kristina hadn't just clashed with Blaze that night. She'd also visited Sunny. And according to someone at the Metro Court, the conversation had been intense. Very warm. Now Cody was in a bind. He wasn't just stepping into Lucky's shoes with Molly. He was entering into a Spencer-style mystery that had the potential to rip apart the Davis family, and perhaps implicate Sonny Corinthos himself. And the deeper he dug, the more he understood someone didn't want him seeing. It started with anonymous messages. A voicemail deleted before he could hear it. A flat tire outside Molly's apartment. Then came the warnings, subtle but undeniable. "Let it go, Cody," someone had remarked at Charlie's one night. "This isn't your fight." But it was. Because it was Molly's fight. And by extension, suddenly it was his. Molly was feeling more torn by the day. Her allegiance to Kristina was being tested in ways she wasn't prepared for. She was attempting to balance her profession, her relationship, and now this growing catastrophe. And through it all, Cody stood by her side, even as others began to question his motives. Sam especially was wary. She'd grabbed Cody aside one afternoon, her tone direct. "What exactly are you trying to do here?" "Help," he said. "That's all." "You sure about that? Because getting embroiled in our family turmoil isn't going to get you any points. Especially not with Kristina. She's not the one I'm worried about." Sam examined him for a long minute, then nodded slowly. "Just be careful. You start bringing up things that are buried, and you might not like what you find." Cody took the advice to heart, but he didn't stop. Not after he found out that Kristina had received a threatening letter the day before the crash. Not when Blaze revealed that Kristina had been terrified, very scared, about something or someone, in the days preceding up to it. The truth was coming whether anyone wanted it or not. And then came the night everything changed. Cody was leaving Charlie's when he observed someone near Kristina's smashed car, still impounded and parked behind the police station. A mysterious figure was studying it, flashlight in hand. Cody approached slowly and the figure turned surprised, and it was Dex. The confrontation was tense. Dex claimed he was looking into the crash for Sunny, a private company. Cody didn't buy it. Not exactly. There was more to the story, and Dex was definitely in over his head. The next morning, Kristina finally broke. Sitting in her hospital room, eyes empty and voice shaking, she confided to Molly and Cody that she'd been followed in the days before the crash. That someone had been watching her, threatening her. She'd gone to Sunny, begged him to handle it, but instead of helping, he'd advised her to put her head down and stay quiet, that it would blow over. She hadn't been drinking the night of the crash. She'd been running. From who? She didn't know. And just like that, everything altered. Cody had the missing piece. And with it came a new burden. Disclosing the truth risked placing Kristina in danger again. It meant challenging Sunny. It meant pushing Molly further into something dark and unpredictable. But he wasn't backing down. If this was what replacing Lucky meant, not just standing by Molly but protecting her family, and battling for the truth no matter the cost, then so be it. Because for the first time in a long time, Cody Bell knew who he was. And he wasn't going away. General Hospital spoilers claim a preview clip has been posted for Monday, June 9, 2025. It shows Giovanni Gio Palmieri making a declaration. Kristina Corinthos Davis gets an idea. Plus, Michael Corinthos tries to extend an olive branch to Willow Tate Corinthos. Keep reading and let's chat about what is coming up on the ABC soap drama. Let's begin with Lucky Spencer, who has opted to seek adventure outside Port Charles. Lucky will say farewell to Lulu Spencer. The young man will talk about Elizabeth Liz Baldwin rejecting his marriage proposal. Over with Brooklyn Quartermain, she will have a conversation with Harrison Chase. BLQ will inform her husband that she's learned her lessons and is ready to start her new chapter. Of course, BLQ is distraught that Gio wants nothing to do with her. The brunette will also worry about her son's future. Meanwhile, Gio will be determined that whatever happens now is up to him. While Gio is motivated to make his own decisions about his life, he's also being rather stubborn and disobedient. Part of being an adult is knowing that not everything is black and white. So Gio still has a lot of lessons to learn. General Hospital spoilers predict that Kristina will come up with an innovative solution to a dilemma. However, it could be problematic, especially if this has to do with Ava Jerome and Rick Lansing. Fans will also witness Cody Bell have some kind of proposition for Carly Spencer. It has something to do with love, so let's see what kind of proposition the stableman has for Carly. Plus, Willow confronts Nina Reeves. Nina will have to explain harboring secrets from her kid. Meanwhile, Drew Kane makes another sleazy move. Drew encourages Rick to get it done in the courts. Drew is quite violent in the preview footage, poking his finger in Rick's face. Drew stood by the window of the Metro Court penthouse, the late afternoon sunlight spreading golden shadows on his face. His mouth was tense, his head churning with scheming. The day had started like any other, but the moment he got that anonymous tip, untraceable number, garbled voice, everything flipped. He hadn't wanted to believe it at first. He had been trying to keep his mind clear, above water, especially after all that went down with Nina and the SEC. But the words repeated in his mind. You're being played, and it's coming from someone close. Now, Drew wasn't a man to jump at ghosts. But this wasn't paranoia. He could feel it in his gut. Someone in his network had been providing information, delicate, sensitive information, to someone outside. Not corporate sabotage precisely, but much worse. Personal. As he paced the floor, Drew's thoughts combed through names and circumstances like a soldier examining a battlefield. There were too many uncertainties, but one thing was clear. He needed to make the first move. He couldn't afford another blindside. Not now. Not after all he'd been through. Downstairs at Charlie's, Kristina was wiping down the bar, her demeanor taut but determined. She was always skilled at multitasking, juggling her social activism work with running the bar, but tonight was different. Her phone buzzed every few minutes with texts from her staff, the city board, and her family, all begging for her opinion, her presence, her involvement. Normally she thrived in that role, being needed, being central, but now it was wearing thin. Because the center was changing. The center had become chaos. The baby preparations were still unfolding. But surrogacy wasn't as simple as she had always imagined. Between Molly's increasingly caustic tone and TJ's quiet judgment, Kristina had begun to worry whether the family she was offering to construct was already splitting apart. The problem wasn't the biology, it was trust. And that was the one thing she thought she had in spades with them. She went for her phone again, rereading a message she'd drafted 3 times but hadn't sent. Can we meet? Just to discuss. Not about legal matters. Just us. She sighed and deleted it. No. If they wanted to discuss, they could come to her. She was tired of bending to meet everyone else's comfort while hers kept getting trampled. If she was going to be the answer, as everyone liked to call her, then she'd be the one to establish the terms. Her way. Not Molly's. Not TJ's. A few blocks away at the Quartermain mansion, Michael stepped out into the garden, wanting the fresh air more than he thought. Willow had gone inside with Amelia, her sweet voice flowing through the open windows, but Michael couldn't stay in the room another second. Not with the weight of what he was pondering. He looked down at the letter in his hand. His father's handwriting glared back at him, strong, manly, even eager. It wasn't a new letter. It was one Michael had read 100 times before. One of the handful Sonny had written him when he was in prison, attempting to reconnect, trying to create something solid after years of blunders and betrayals. Michael had ignored it back then, or pretended to, but the reality was he hadn't thrown it away. And now, in the quiet aftermath of Nina's exposure and Sonny's fractured alliances, Michael was starting to question everything. Not about what Sonny had done, but about what Michael had done in return. The conflict had changed them both. And maybe it had gone too far. Inside, Willow had spotted him gazing at the letter. She hadn't said anything, but he knew she knew. She always did. Her quiet was a nudge, not a judgment. And that was all it took. Because Michael wasn't terrified of confrontation. He was afraid of not trying. Of letting things stay broken while he had the capacity to heal them. He placed the note back into his pocket. If this was going to work, he needed to do it face to face. No intermediaries. No messaging decks or asking Carly to soften the edges. Just him. Sonny. Truth. Drew strolled through the corridors of Aurora with new clarity, while he kept his expression neutral. He'd sent out a few feelers, vague but focused. A business associate in D.C. They owed him a favor. A former intelligence contact in Berlin. Nothing obvious but enough to generate traction. He needed names. Connections. A path. But this wasn't just about exposure. It was about leverage. Because the person behind the breach wasn't attempting to destroy him, they were trying to shape him. Steer him. That was even worse. By the time Drew got into his office, his plan had formed. He sat down, opened his private laptop, and began composing a message. Not to a lawyer. Not to Carly. To someone who could still maneuver in the shadows. Someone whose loyalty was ambiguous, but helpful. Curtis. Their past was complex, but that was exactly why Drew trusted him with this kind of stuff. Curtis had lived in the gray. He understood the rules you had to breach to defend what mattered. At the same moment, Kristina was in a staff meeting, nodding along to budget updates as her mind raced elsewhere. When it concluded, she made her way to the back office and locked the door. Then she took out a folder she had been silently accumulating for weeks. It wasn't a legal proposal. It wasn't a complaint. It was a new program. A safe space initiative for young LGBTQ+ persons who were aging out of foster care, Kids like the one she had worked with, laughed with, cried with. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't headline making. But it was real. And it was hers. No compromises. No committee whittling it down. No TJ to fact-check or Molly to alter the language. She was funding the pilot phase herself. She had saved, hustled, and done the math. She didn't need approval anymore. What she needed was to act. She took a deep breath and pushed send on the grant application. Then she smiled for the first time in days. Michael, meantime, drove himself to Pozzolo's. No security detail. No warning. When he walked in, the tension was immediate. The people at the door stiffened, surprised. Sonny wasn't expecting anyone. Especially not him. Sonny was at the rear, speaking with one of his lieutenants, but the second he noticed Michael, his voice died off. His brow twisted, not in anger, but in a mix of caution and disbelief. Michael didn't waste time. "I need 5 minutes," he said. Sonny waved off the others and gestured to the booth. Neither of them sat immediately away. "You okay?" Sonny asked, his voice unreadable. Michael hesitated. "I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to lecture." Sonny nodded slowly. "Then why are you here?" General Hospital spoilers for the next 3 weeks, June 9th to June 27th, state that Ava Jerome will extend a mysterious invite while Sonny Corinthos and Carly Spencer confront a curveball. Emma Scorpio Drake will also carry out a risky trick, so there's a lot coming up on the ABC serial. The week of June 9th to 13th will see Lucky Spencer's farewell to Lulu Spencer, Laura Collins and others as he leaves Port Charles behind. Next, the custody fight will take a dramatic turn as Drew Kane deals a low blow and throws off Michael Corinthos' attempt to compromise with Willow Corinthos. Sonny and Carly will confront a curveball along with Jason Morgan, since Michael's poised to offer them all some surprising news. Afterward, there will be another courtroom jaw-dropper that throws everyone for a loop. As for Ava, she'll have an invitation for someone who hasn't been disclosed in GH teasers yet. Who will be on the receiving end of this mysterious invite? Since Kristina Corinthos Davis seems set to make further trouble, would Ava meet with her for a blackmail-related confrontation? Regardless, Alexis Davis will find herself under additional pressure, as she worries about keeping both Kristina and herself out of prison. During the week of June 16th to 20th, Willow and Michael will have to live with the outcomes of their legal struggle. Who will pull off a win in the custody dispute, and how will it influence their family moving forward? Back with Jason, he'll follow his commitment to Anna Devane and investigate Professor Henry Hank Dalton, which might put Jocelyn Jacks on edge if he interferes with her own WSB assignment. Jocelyn and Vaughn will build their bond as the action heats up, so things could eventually take a romantic turn between them. Speaking of romantic turns, Carly will ultimately have a unique gift for Jack Brennan, as they carve out some time for their romance. The week of June 23rd to 27th could bring interesting discoveries relating to Professor Dalton's lab, especially after Jocelyn gets deeper into this summer research assistant employment. Of course, Jason's threat will persist since he could find out too much and put Jocelyn's new career in peril. The last thing Jocelyn wants is for her cover to get revealed. As for Emma, she'll be playing a deadly game. It's evident that Emma is trying to seduce Professor Dalton and use his interest to get closer to the knowledge she wants. However, there are a lot of ways that plan may go tragically wrong, so Emma may find herself in over her head. Finally, Ada Turner will continue her efforts to go after Sonny. Although Sonny feels he can handle the threat, Ada Turner may find methods to surprise him. Ava Jerome had never been one to disregard a mystery, so when the invitation arrived, no return address, no signature, just her name printed in fine calligraphy on a thick cream-colored envelope, her curiosity wasn't simply piqued. It was set ablaze. She clutched the envelope gently in her fingers as though it may self-destruct, her gaze examining every inch for a clue. The handwriting was familiar in the vaguest sense, but that made it even worse. Whoever delivered this wanted her attention, and they had it. She opened it slowly, savoring the suspense, even though her pulse had already began to rise. Inside, a brief note. "Meet me where everything ended. Midnight." Ava's breath caught in her throat. The words were like a whisper from a ghost, pulling her back into memories she had long ago hidden away. She knew exactly what the note meant. Everything ended in Windmere. It was where she had lost Nicholas, where secrets and machinations had folded in on themselves until all that was left was devastation. She hadn't stepped foot on Spoon Island in months, years really, and the idea of coming there alone under the cover of darkness was as foolish as it was alluring. Meanwhile, across town, Sonny Corinthos stood at the edge of his private terrace, peering out over the bay. The night air was sharp, infused with something he couldn't define. He'd become used to the continual low hum of stress in his life, but lately it felt like something was shifting. He didn't like surprises, he valued control. And right now, things were sliding just far enough outside his reach to make him uncomfortable. Carly Spencer had felt it too. The link between them had always ran hot and explosive even in the best of times. They weren't adversaries, not anymore, but they weren't allies either. Not with all the history between them. Still, they'd learned to navigate their shaky coexistence with a sort of unspoken truce, until the curveball came. They hadn't seen it coming. A pact that should have been ironclad was suddenly riddled with weaknesses. Carly had invested extensively in a new venture. Something legal, something clean, and something far distant from Sonny's world. But when the contracts piled in, it became evident someone was pulling strings in the background. Someone who didn't want Carly to prosper unless she was linked to Sonny. At first, she believed it was Sonny himself. Old habits die hard, and Carly didn't trust easily. But when she confronted him, his reaction wasn't anger, it was perplexity. Genuine bewilderment. If he was lying, he'd gotten better at it, which didn't set well with her. That's when they both recognized it. Someone else was manipulating them, playing them against each other with surgical precision. Sonny started making calls. Carly started pulling favors. And together, grudgingly, they dived into something neither of them expected. The paper trail went back to a shell corporation with ties to one person they'd both sought to forget. Claudia Zachra. Or rather, someone acting under her old aliases. Couldn't be Claudia, not after all this time. But whatever it was had studied her methods carefully. Back in Port Charles, Emma Scorpio Drake was busy stirring up her own trouble, though no one had quite figured it out yet. Emma had grown up beneath the watchful eyes of legends. Her mother, her father, her grandparents. They all expected brilliance and she gave it on paper at least. But Emma was aching for something more. Something harmful. Something real. She'd recently returned to town under the premise of reconnecting with family and preparing for the next chapter of her life, but her goals weren't as pure as she let on. Emma had unearthed something while studying abroad. A name, a file, a buried truth about her past, and now she was following it back to Port Charles. Her dangerous trick started with one simple lie. She informed Anna she was working on a research article and required access to WSB archives. Anna, proud of her granddaughter's intellect, pulled the appropriate threads. What she didn't know was that Emma had used the clearance to open files on a clandestine operation gone wrong. One that implicated a former agent with ties to Port Charles. Files Anna herself may have been part of. But Emma didn't stop there. She began reaching out to people discreetly at first. A message here, a call there. She asked the correct questions to the wrong people and soon she had their attention. One in particular, Valentine Cassadine. She didn't plan to tangle with him, but the truth she was following ran through his past like a scar. And once Valentine knew Emma was digging, he had a choice to make. Shut her down or protect her. For now, Valentine observed. Quietly. But not passively. He understood what happened to people who went too close to secrets designed to stay buried. Emma reminded him too much of Anna in her prime, brilliant, fearless, and a touch too reckless for her own good. At the same time, Ava prepared for her midnight appointment at Windmere. She didn't tell anyone. Nor Nina, nor Trina, not even her lawyer. This was something she needed to accomplish alone. She arrived just as the clock struck 12. Her heels clicking quietly on the stone path as she made her way to the door. The front doors were already open.